Everybody, what is going on? So in this video, let's talk about that Variety article that dropped a few days ago from Variety. So I want to encourage everybody right out the gate, link down below in the description of this Variety article. I want you to read the article and make your own opinion and judgment call on what you feel about the article. Okay, don't just go based on what I'm saying. This is just merely my opinion. Okay, so when it comes to any kind of article or hit piece or whatever, a kind of a general rule of thumb for me personally is if I see a lot of really vague citations of sourcing, my antenna goes up a little bit. Okay, you see this in politics, and you're seeing it now in entertainment as well, where they'll very vaguely they'll make a claim, right, and then they'll say like a person close to the situation says, and then they'll make this big claim. You see a lot of that in this Variety article, stuff like a Disney insider says, one producer says, Hollywood deal makers say. It's all very vague. And literally, these sources could be anybody. A Disney insider could be some vlogger or something, right? It could be literally anybody. Okay. This article is full of sourcing like that. They make a lot of claims about Bob Chapek and the restructuring that was announced in October. And they use these really vague sourcing. And it's not even like they're sourcing it to protect their source. Like they're not, it's okay. If they were to even say something like a Pixar executive said, I would put a little more legitimacy towards it. But when you say something like a Disney insider or a Hollywood deal maker says, it's so vague. It could be literally anybody. Look, I take the information with a huge grain of salt. Okay. Now I see a lot of hysteria on YouTube and on social media about this particular news all of a sudden because of the Variety article. Now, this was actually announced back in October, and it was met with a lot of praise. I mean, the stock went up, on the announcement. I didn't see this level of like freak out back in October when this restructuring was announced. Now this Variety hit piece comes out and everyone's freaking out and thinking it's like the end of Disney and creativity at Disney is dead. I don't understand it. I really don't. First of all, I read the article a dozen times and I don't even see really what the issue is. It feels like a distribution business thing more than it does a creativity thing. Okay. And I don't even know how much of a difference this really is. I mean, it was my understanding, and I could be wrong, comment below if I'm wrong, but it was my understanding that Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars, whatever, they don't decide what day their movie falls on the calendar year. That would be Burbank, the Walt Disney Company headquarters, because they have to kind of coordinate their annual slate, right? Like you can't have Marvel deciding when their movies come out because it might conflict with when Pixar is going to have their movies come out. So it's really the company at large, Burbank, that has to sort of manage all that. So I get this news of the distribution, that they're going to streamline it, I guess. And this Kareem Daniels is basically going to sort of decide, when these movies and shows come out and what platform they're going to be released on. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. We kind of need that in this day and age, but it doesn't seem a vast departure from what we usually get. Because I was always under the impression that the Walt Disney Company decided when movies are released. That was never up to the creatives. At least in my opinion, that's what I always assumed. And again, I could be wrong. This seems like a business decision being made by the business units of the company. And I don't have a problem with that. It doesn't affect creativity at all. This is about where the movie is going to land on the calendar and what platform it's going to be put on. How does that have anything to do with Pete Docter or Kevin Feige or anybody else that's creative? In my opinion, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, another issue that I have with this article and really kind of media in general is this. I'm going to show you something. All right. So it says here, I'm going to read this to you real quick, okay? It says here, in the restructuring, top division heads have lost oversight of profit and loss, which has been a tough pill to swallow for the likes of FX chief John Langriff and Peter Rice, the chairman of Disney General Entertainment Content, who has grown frustrated that some of the responsibilities have been taken away. And then it goes on, quote, "That is inaccurate," unquote, Rice told Variety. Now, why does this bother me, you say? Well, this is why it bothers me. Okay, and this happens a lot in reporting. It says here, this report was updated on May 14th, 2021, to reflect Peter Rice's comment. So that comment I just read you. Now, that was on May 14th, which was exactly 2 days after the article was published. 2 days. So the article was published. The horse has left the barn. Everyone's retweeting it. Everyone's talking about it. It's all over YouTube. And they quietly put that in there that Peter Rice, who actually works in the company, who is one of the executives that Variety says has been affected by this, says that this is not accurate. But are there a ton of YouTube videos and articles about Rice's comment? Of course not. It was quietly snuck in there. No one's going to read the article 2 and 3 days later to even look at that, and it gets buried. And the original article is basically what stands in the court of public opinion. That bothers me. And it doesn't just happen with Variety. I have to be fair. It happens to a lot of these outlets that report something. They make a correction 2 or 3 days later, but it's so quietly done that no one really catches the correction. So in my opinion, and I know a lot of you might disagree with me on this, but in my opinion, I take this Variety article with a huge grain of salt. Massive, massive grain of salt. Obviously the restructuring happened. I mean, there was a whole spread on it back in October, but I'm really questioning the validity of all these complaints and confusion and headaches and all that stuff going on. I think that it is sort of cherry picking certain people that from within the company who we have no idea who, and sort of trying to build a narrative around a few people's opinions and what have you. And they're not even really, the sourcing is so vague. Who knows, who they could be. But what do you guys think about this article? What are your feelings on it? Do you kind of agree with me? It's a massive grain of salt. I mean, it's kind of iffy, or do you take it completely at like face value and it's gospel and it's the truth, and this is a huge problem? I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day. Bye bye, y'all.